Alright, welcome my loves. Wishing you peace, blessings, love, and abundance. This video is just about my city, Atlanta, where this being was born and raised, and just knowing that there's something significant about this city. There's definitely a reason that so much is happening in this city, and so much is being built in the city, and so many damn people moving to this city and have moved to the city in the past. And knowing that it's called Atlanta for a reason. A lot of people call it the lost city of Atlantis. And Steve Coakley was one of those people. He Ashe to the brother Steve Coakley. He was one of the earlier black or melanated people that was champion for, well, I should say really in the conscious movement, but also championing for the conscious people and doing a lot of teaching and, educating people about the true, what's the best word, way I want to, or the way I really want to use. Why am I getting tongue tied? But the truth behind the melanin, and and the truth behind the government, and just a lot of different things. He was breaking down a lot of knowledge. So I'll say to that brother, and he called it the lost city of Atlantis. I've seen a couple of his videos. Like I said, I've actually listened to quite a few different people, and because I listen to all people's perspectives, and still I have to formulate my own perspective. How does it make me feel, and how does it resonate with me? However, at the same time, I can tell when the spirit has led me to a particular person, to particular information, because it actually confirms. It's, how you would talk about in church, you get a confirmation from spirit. You literally do get a confirmation from spirit that this is, you're going on the right path. So stay there, keep it right there. But he called it the lost city of Atlantis. Now, Bobby Hammond also talked about one of his videos. He called it the lost city of Atlantis, and he called it New Camelot. And he called the word Camelot the new lot of Kim, or Kemet. Now, the reason why this information is important, or even that I'm bringing it up, is because I've noticed I literally turned 40 on Monday, November 26th, Sagittarius. And I really don't normally get caught up with that, but like the sign shit, but I'll tell you why, how you can utilize that information a little bit later. But getting back to Atlanta, Atlanta, of course, we had Martin Luther King, who was very important in the civil rights movement. He actually had brought to the forefront in Atlanta the Heru energy, which is the hero energy, the savior energy, which basically, if you look at the reason why a lot of melanated people, why we keep like missing the motherfucking boat, is because we keep looking for someone to save us. We keep looking for a hero or a savior, when really you're your own hero. You're your own Heru. And getting into Heru, and getting into Martin Luther King being a Heru, being the Heru energy, I say that to talk about the reason why this city, that is the reason why the city is so important. Because it does have that that savior energy. It has that which, that Heru, or that savior energy, which is getting into, if you look at the biblical sense, and getting to Jesus coming back. People think Jesus is coming back, whatever. It gets into all that energy, so it plays into, and if you really know truly where the Bible comes from, the Gnostic text, it comes from the ancient Egyptians anyway. So it's just, they just pull bits and pieces from not just there, but from other places as well, which is still information that comes from ancient black civilizations. So that's with us getting into Age of Aquarius and us being in Revelations, which actually is the Age of Aquarius. That's why Atlanta is playing a big part in this time. And it all really, like, it started a long time ago, but we'll just go start with 1996, and we had the Olympics here, which during that time, to me, it made no sense. They even though I was excited because it was a lot of fun downtown during that time. We had like 112 and Biggie performed. I didn't pay for a ticket, but you can literally stand outside and I could see them performing, you know. So it was a lot of shit going on, and they rebuilt up a lot of places in Atlanta. We now have a train or whatever that goes through rail that goes through the city and everything like that. Of course, they built Centennial Olympic Park during that time, 1996. My family actually has a couple of bricks. We have one brick that has our last name on there, which is the Smith name, and then we have another brick my dad put down there for his mother because she passed back in 94, I think. And so so you have Centennial Olympic Park, you have the aquarium that's all in that area, you have the world of Coca-Cola. This is the home of Coca-Cola. But that's getting on some other things. But getting back into it being chosen for the Olympics back in 1996, and that actually showing you some things. We also had the music industry start out big. We had LaFace Records that was here at one point. And Jermaine Dupri and So Def and a lot of artists that came out of that, and a lot of people moving to the city because they wanted to get into music. So you can see how we have the Olympics. Then they brought, you know, then music became a big thing here with Outkast, Goody Mob, and these niggas was actually talking about real shit. Goody Mob came out real conscious as fuck, you know, talking about, they were really talking about soul food and how soul food really wasn't good for the fucking soul, even though we know that the soul don't need food, period. You know what I'm saying? It's this physical body, but still what they were talking about was real shit. And they were talking about, you know, the dirty South and everything like that, and just real shit. Like, they were one of my favorite groups coming up. Outkast and Goody Mob, hands down. You know, especially Dre from Outkast. I've talked about him in other videos. I absolutely love that motherfucker. I love his energy. I love that he will be himself. Like, he'll dress in a way that niggas will say, like, most niggas wouldn't have walked around. He was just his fucking self, and I love that about him. Plus, he was with Badu, you know, from Texas, Dallas, Texas, you know, a country girl. So even though he wasn't with me, I still respected the fact that he was with a country girl, and she was real, like natural hair and everything, shaved the hair off and everything, just real woman. Anywho's real melanated queen, real empress. But yeah, so we had music come up out of here, and a lot of people moving here to try to get their music thing going. So when you think about the music, you back in the day, you would, especially hip-hop, it started out in New York. So that's an important thing when you think about New York being the beginning of hip-hop. And then, you know, it going to other places before it actually, Atlanta was even taken seriously in the music game. Even though we had Outkast, they didn't, when Outkast won that Grammy, they actually got booed and shit. Like, people looked at them like they weren't real rappers because it was coming out of the South, but them niggas was talking about real shit. And so let's, you know, get on the fact that, so then music became a staple. So now when you think about hip hop, everybody trying to sound like a motherfucking Atlanta nigga, like, you know, fucking Future and shit. And I know they have other rappers and things now, like Migos is big. Migos got shouted out at the Grammys and shit, which is Hollywood. So then that takes us to the other side of the United States. So we go from New York, where hip hop started, and then you have people like Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj was from New York, and she came to Atlanta and was like living with like Gucci and Waka Flocka and shit like that, to try to get her shit off the ground. So she Deb Abney, who is Waka Flocka's mother, she actually was managing Nicki Minaj at one point in time. So that just shows you, like, the connection with New York and Atlanta. Like, niggas from New York at where it actually began was coming down here to try to get their rap shit off the ground. Okay, now the like I said, the Migos and everything being shout out, that's newer and shit, but being shout out by Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, who actually has a show called fucking Atlanta. Okay, he had Migos on the fucking show. All right. Then on top of the fact that California is home to Hollywood, or Hollyweird, is home to movies, to people trying to get on to acting, and New York is home to Broadway, so people doing theater and shit like that. Now you have Tyler Perry, who has a studio in Atlanta, and it's a full-out movie studio. I grew up in Fairburn, Georgia, and that's where I grew up from the time from like the 3rd grade on. But we actually started out in Riverdale or College Park, like off of Old National. Anybody know Old Nat Al? Or from Atlanta who know Old Nat, we call it Old Nat Al, but Old National, that area and everything over there, that's where I was first, like when I was a little girl, that's when my family had their first house, but we moved to Fairburn. That's a whole nother thing. But Fairburn is close to Union City, and Union City now has a fucking studio over there, a movie studio and everything. That's where the movie with The Rock and I'm pretty sure other movies, but the movie with The Rock, Jumanji 2, The Rock and Kevin Hart, part of that was filmed on that studio lot. So we have Stranger Things that is filmed here. We have The Walking Dead that is filmed here. And you can look at pretty much, if you watch any movie and you watch to the end, Black Panther, you'll see Georgia come up on there. So many fucking movies and things. They call it Atlanta Hood. Atlanta Wood, I'm sorry. Atlanta Wood is what this girl told me when I was doing Airbnb at this lady's house. And she was actually an aspiring actress from Ohio. So you just see the connection. So now we have movies. So now we have movies and TV being filmed here. We have music that's a big deal here. We have 2 new stadiums. We have one for the Braves, which I don't know the last time they won, you know, the World Series. That's what they call it, right? The World Series, but they've won before. But then you got the Falcons, and I'm going to get into the significance. So we have the Atlanta Hawks, which is a bird, a hawk, right? Then we have the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcon's another bird, right? And the falcon actually represents Haru in Kemet. Anybody who knows Horus or whatever you want to, if you want to call him Horus, it don't really matter what you call him. It just, as long as you know what the fuck I'm talking about, okay? Which is the son of Isis and Osiris, or Aset and Asor in Kemet or in Egypt, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It still means nigga. So you have Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons, and that actually makes sense as to why they don't want the Falcons to win anything, or really they don't want any of our fucking teams really to win anything, especially the teams that have a bird that represents them, which is the Atlanta Hawks and the Atlanta Falcons, and especially the Falcons, because the Falcons are directly related to Haru, because Haru has a falcon head. So yeah, you just start seeing the connection as to why Atlanta is so important. And also when you think about the coast, so New York is the northeast coast, Atlanta the southeast part of the United States, and then California is on the west side, and it's literally the southwest side of the United States of America. So you kind of can see the triangle, the triangle between the connecting points of those 3 states, you know, Georgia, New York, and California, you know, and being on the coast of the country and the connection to that. And we have Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson, which is the busiest fucking airport in the world, not the United States, in the world. More flights go in and out of Atlanta than any other airport in the world, you know. And even people who are not coming to Atlanta, but they have to do a connecting flight through Atlanta. So you just start seeing like the significance and the ties of it. And then also we have a statue, Atlanta from the Ashes. Atlanta was burnt down twice. Once in, I think, 1864 or 65, and then the second time was like in 1917. The first time was by General Sherman, and then the second time, not sure the details right now, but the fire started at one place and it just spread throughout the city. So about 300 acres was burnt down the second time. So they have a statue called Atlanta from the Ashes that's actually reflective of the first fire, but actually still can relate to the second fire. And so they call Atlanta the phoenix rising from the ashes. So then that's a third bird that symbolizes or is being used to represent the city of Atlanta. So that's like the motherfucking Trinity. So we got a phoenix, we have the hawks, and we have the falcons. And yeah, so, and when I think of the phoenix, actually, I think of Scorpio, because the phoenix bird actually is used to signify the zodiac sign of Scorpio sometimes. And the zodiac sign of Scorpio actually ties into Anubis, which is the deity associated with the underworld. So yeah, you can look at it from so many different perspectives, or from different vantage points. You still look at it as Atlanta being significant or symbolic. And getting back to Atlanta from the Ashes, that statue is a woman who is topless. So it's the divine feminine energy who is holding the phoenix. And that's significant. And to me, it really looks like a melanated woman. They can say it, they don't really say it if she's, supposed to be like a black woman or a white woman or whatever, but she looks like a melanated woman with some thick locks or whatever. But yeah, it still is that divine feminine energy coming back, rising from the ashes, because she had been buried and for so long, and now that energy is coming back up. So it's like literally signifying it. And I think it used to be off of Martin Luther King, which says a lot, but then they moved it to Woodruff Park and or whatever. But yeah, it's just a lot going on here in the city, and there's a lot of people moving here. Like I said, we have the 2 new stadiums, one for the Braves and one for the Falcons, and they put a lot of money in that, and they put a whole bunch of money in a stadium for a team that they won't allow to win any fucking Super Bowls. When you think about, we were in the Super Bowl of 2017, right? And we were playing against the Patriots. Now the Patriots represents the patriarchal energy that is dying out. You know what I'm saying? Because now we're getting into the divine feminine energy, which is what Haru is representing, the Falcons are representing, and they are symbolically or ritually trying to make that energy lose. And that's what they did with that football game, with the Super Bowl. But you can't kill that, because the spiritual is definitely not something that they can even touch, because they're literally operating on a physical left brain wave of thinking, and trying to combat the divine feminine energy. And they try to do that, like I said, ritualistic. That's really what that Super Bowl was about, because you can tell that the Falcons were supposed to win that game. And then at the end, they brought their Patriots back, their patriarchy back, that energy. So again, is that still that is literally like the Kabbalah, like the right side, which is focused on the group organization and the patriarchy type of deal, trying to defeat the left pillar, the Boaz and the Jachin energy. You know what I'm saying? Like the black pole and the white pole. That's really, or black pillar and the white pillar. That's literally what they're trying to do. Like that battle, that left and that right, that Democrat and Republican. It's all that same energy they're still trying to combat. Another thing with Atlanta, the colors for the Falcons, you always think of the red and black, and the red and black being significant as well with Haru, but also being significant with Sekhmet. who is the Eye of Ra. But that's getting in something else, and that's getting into the lion shit, which I won't get into. But yeah, so still, that's still being significant with and symbolic of the city of Atlanta, and Atlanta being the new Kemet, and also Atlanta being that representing that divine feminine energy. Because when you think of the South, a lot of times you do think of the feminine energy, and yeah, the feminine energy, because up north is more hardcore, more masculine, energy, the more left brain thinking, where we're more feelers, and big mama type of shit going on down here, big mama's kitchen and big mama's house, and our soul food and everything soul. You think about the South a lot of times, even think about South, SOU, starting with the three letters starting with the soul, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, and that's just me, feeling a way about, the Southern and the soul going hand in hand, you know what I'm saying? So anywho's, I'm gonna end the video on that note. I just wanted to talk about some reasons why I feel that Atlanta is being, raised up in a way, because the reason why it's being raised up in the physical, because it shows what's happening on the spiritual. So remember that everything starts in the spirit first, and then it is physically manifests. That's why we are working with our subconscious mind, so that we can start manifesting the things that we want. But because the things are happening in the spirit realm, that Atlanta is being raised up, it's being shown now in the physical sense, and that's why you're seeing that they're doing all this shit, because they also want to try to combat their energy, but at the same time they want to be able to like feed off or vamp off of that energy at the same time, because it's a lot of shit that's happening. But I'm gonna end the video on that note. It was just really about my thoughts about Atlanta and it being a big deal, and really the state of Georgia as a whole being a big deal. It was a part of the 13 original colonies, so it's literally like the energy started on the east with New York, and then they created Hollywood from that, and then now they're bringing it back to the east, the southeast to be exact, with the city of Atlanta, one of the original 13 colonies, and 13 being a significant number for melanated people. It actually is our number, and it's actually the number of the Christos, of the Christ energy. That's another thing, bringing it back to us, because it's bringing that Christ energy, the Haru energy, which is the number of melanin. You know what I'm saying? So, and of the Christ energy. So, but anywho, like I said, I'm going to end the video on that note, and I appreciate you guys for watching. Like I said, anytime the spirit guides you, to some type of information, like really meditate on that shit. Like really let that sink in, let it marinate. And, it'll only grow from there. Like, let's keep growing and glowing up, my love. So, peace.